Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not just a message. It is a moment, a shift, a breaking, a rebuilding, a resurrection of everything you buried just to survive. Thunder speaks in silence, and a disciplined soul never defends what is already written in its spirit. You've been carrying explanations like chains. You've been holding your breath for people who never noticed your lungs burning. You've been giving reasons to individuals who judged you before they even heard you speak. Let this wash over you. Why do you keep explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you? Why do you shrink your power just to make others comfortable? Why do you justify the fire God put inside you to those who fear flame? Pause. Feel that ache in your chest. That is the sound of truth waking up. That is the sound of your soul asking for air. Because today, something ends. A version of you dies. A quieter, more powerful, more unshakable you rises. And something far greater than your explanations begins. Let me take you to a moment, a real moment. A moment that could belong to any American walking these streets right now. A moment that breaks a life and builds it at the same time. It was early morning in a quiet American neighborhood. Gray sky, cold air moving softly through the trees. A stillness that felt almost holy. A man walked toward his car with shoulders that had forgotten how to stand straight. Years of trying, years of pleasing, years of apologizing for dreams too big for other people's comfort. Family, friends, co-workers, people who measured him by what he did for them, never by who he was becoming. He spent his life explaining why he chose peace over drama, why he worked late chasing a quiet vision, why he said no to things that drained him, why he didn't show up for every argument people tried to drag him into, why his dreams were different from theirs. Every day felt like a courtroom. Every breath felt like testimony. His life became a trial he never asked to stand in. And then, that morning happened. He reached for the car door and something inside him cracked. Not from weakness, not from exhaustion, but from awakening. He finally felt the weight of every explanation he had ever given, every apology he never should have spoken, every attempt to prove himself to people who could not see the greatness God planted in him. And something sacred broke inside him, the realization that he owed no one an explanation for becoming who he was born to be. His breath shifted. His eyes changed. His spirit stood taller than his body. That moment shook him. That moment freed him. And that moment is the moment you are having right now, because you know exactly what that feels like. You've swallowed words to keep peace. You've hidden dreams to avoid judgment. You've lowered your voice to fit inside rooms too small for your destiny. You've apologized for your heart, for your growth, for your healing, for your boundaries, for your calling. And somewhere inside, the real you has been whispering, enough. Enough trying. Enough explaining. Enough begging people to understand who you are. Listen, you are so precious for being here right now. The fact that you clicked and chose to watch this shows your hunger for truth. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not just knowledge, but life for your soul. Please subscribe, like, and share this message, so that others just as precious as you may also find this light. Now breathe. Slowly, deeply. Let that breath remind you that you are alive for a reason. Still standing for a reason. Still here for a reason. We are just beginning. Because when you stop explaining yourself, something supernatural happens. Something sacred. Something powerful. People reveal their intentions. Masks fall. Truth shows. Hearts expose themselves. You see clearly who was standing with you and who was standing on you. Respect returns to its rightful owner. Your spirit becomes untouchable. Your path becomes unmistakably clear. Your silence grows teeth. Your presence grows weight. Your decisions grow backbone. Your soul grows wings. And the truth hits you like lightning. You never needed permission from anyone. Not for your peace, not for your dreams, not for your boundaries, not for your destiny. You only needed discipline. Discipline to stand still in your truth. Discipline to stop explaining. Discipline to guard your spirit like gold. Stay with me, because the next words may break you open just to rebuild you higher. You're about to see what happens next. The weight you were never meant to carry. It begins with pressure you never asked for. Pressure that arrived before you even had words, before you understood yourself, before you learned that the world can demand more from you than it ever gives back. Expectations you didn't create. Expectations handed to you like luggage at birth. Heavy, silent, unfair. Opinions you didn't invite. Opinions spoken by people who never lived inside your skin. Voices telling you who to be, how to live, what to chase, who to love, who to avoid. Voices shaping you before you ever had a chance to choose yourself. You grow up thinking you owe everyone clarity, thinking you owe them explanations for why you move the way you move, thinking their understanding matters more than your peace, thinking their approval validates your existence. So you share your heart, you share your plans, you share your dreams. You open the doors of your soul, and the world walks in with muddy feet. You try to justify your boundaries. You try to justify your goals. You try to justify your silence. You try to justify your healing. You place your spirit on the scale of public opinion, hoping someone will call it enough, hoping someone will look at you and finally say, you don't need to explain anymore, but they never do. Because people demand explanations when they cannot control you. People demand explanations when they cannot predict you. People demand explanations when they fear the strength you are stepping into. And America, you know this feeling. Because every one of you watching has carried a weight that did not belong to you. A weight placed on your back by family, by friends, by bosses, by society, by people who didn't see your wounds, only your usefulness. You became the strong one, the reliable one, the forgiving one, the one who smiles even when it hurts, the one who keeps the peace even when you're breaking inside, the one who carries burdens others drop without a second thought. But here's the truth America needs to hear. The only person you owe anything to is the one staring back at you in the mirror. The one who carries your dreams others laughed at. The one who carries your sleepless nights while others rest comfortably. The one who carries battles nobody sees and nobody thanks you for. The one who keeps fighting even when kindness is mistaken for weakness. That person, that soul, that heart inside of you is the only one you owe. You owe yourself honesty. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself space to breathe. You owe yourself forgiveness for every time you tried to please people who were never going to love you correctly. Listen deeply. Lean into this, because this is the year you put that weight down. This is the year the real you steps forward. This is the year you stop explaining yourself to people who can't even explain their own lives. This is the year you stop apologizing for the way God designed you. This is the year your soul begins to breathe again. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop bleeding energy. Energy that was draining you quietly. Energy that was stealing your peace. Energy that was turning you into a shadow of who you were meant to be. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop handing out pieces of your spirit like free samples. Pieces people take, then drop. Pieces people admire, then mock. Pieces people use but never protect. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving discounts on your worth. You stop seeking approval from people who aren't even happy with themselves. You stop lowering your voice just so others feel tall. You stop bending yourself into shapes that break your soul. Your life becomes lighter when your explanations leave your hands. Your soul becomes louder when you choose silence over unnecessary defense. Your direction becomes clearer when you stop following opinions that are lost themselves. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is power. Silence is alignment. Silence is wisdom in its purest, sharpest, most divine form. Silence is the place where your purpose recalibrates. Silence is the place where your future finds you. Silence is the place where God whispers things no crowd will ever understand. And something else happens when you stop explaining yourself. Something deeper. Something people rarely talk about. You start hearing your own voice again. The voice you buried. The voice you silenced. The voice that once spoke dreams before the world told you they were unreasonable. You begin to feel your own heartbeat. You notice the rhythms you ignored. You notice who drains you and who honors you. You notice which rooms shrink you and which rooms grow you. You begin to see the truth with frightening clarity. Some people never wanted an explanation. They wanted control. They wanted access. They wanted obedience. They wanted your hesitance. They wanted your doubt. They wanted you small enough to manage. But that version of you, the one who explains everything, the one who bends, the one who breaks to please, that version is done. Right here, right now, a new version rises. A quieter version, a stronger version, a deeper version, a version that carries peace like armor and purpose like fire. You are stepping into a season where your silence will speak louder than your explanations ever did. A season where your presence will say everything. A season where the weight you once carried falls off your shoulders and onto the floor, never to be lifted again. This is the weight you were never meant to carry. And this is the moment you finally put it down. The power of sacred silence. America loves noise. Noise that fills the streets. Noise that fills the air. Noise that fills the mind. Everyone talking. Everyone shouting. And everyone trying to outrun their own emptiness by being louder than everyone else. Opinions flying like arrows. Arguments rising like storms. Debates erupting from places that have more pain than purpose. Noise built on fear. Noise built on ego. Noise built on insecurity disguised as certainty. But discipline, true Stoic discipline, is the quietest strength on earth. A strength that doesn't need to announce itself. A strength that doesn't need a crowd. A strength that doesn't need applause. When you stop explaining yourself, your silence becomes a message that rings louder than any speech you could ever give, a message that shakes the room without you ever raising your voice, a message that pierces the soul of anyone who once underestimated you. Your silence becomes a boundary carved by experience, a boundary shaped by wounds you survived, a boundary that says nothing yet communicates everything. Your silence becomes your armor, an armor forged in pain, an armor polished by healing, an armor that protects you without making you hard. And when your silence grows, people start noticing. People who once doubted you start watching. People who once ignored you start leaning in. People who once criticized you start respecting you, not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped explaining who you are. Silence makes them confront their own noise. Silence forces them to face the truth they've been running from. Silence exposes insecurity in others without you ever pointing a finger. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects the emptiness in their accusations, a mirror that reveals the weakness in their assumptions, a mirror that shows them their opinions were never about you, they were about them. And here is the truth that will shake your soul. Your destiny is too expensive to be explained. Your purpose is too holy to be defended. Your path is too unique to be understood by everyone. You were never meant to be understood by the crowd. You were never meant to be decoded by the masses. You were never meant to be legible to those who refuse to read their own hearts. Some will misunderstand your silence because they misunderstand themselves. Some will misjudge your quiet strength because they have none. Some will question your distance because they fear being alone with their own thoughts. But none of that matters, because something greater is happening within you. Your silence is rebuilding your spirit. Your silence is strengthening your foundation. Your silence is reconnecting you to the voice you've been drowning, the voice God placed within you, the voice that knows your direction, the voice that knows your purpose, the voice that knows your worth. And slowly, one day at a time, your silence becomes sacred. Sacred like prayer, sacred like still water, sacred like the moment before dawn breaks. Sacred silence is where clarity is born. Sacred silence is where strength is rebuilt. Sacred silence is where you finally hear the truth of who you are, not who they said you were, not who they wanted you to be, not who they tried to mold you into, who you truly are, who you were always meant to be, because you are not here to convince. You are here to become the fullest version of yourself. Become the calm in a chaotic world. Become the disciplined soul that stands unshaken. Say it softly inside your mind. Let it echo through your chest. Let it settle into your bones. I am not here to convince. I am here to become wiser, become stronger, become quieter in a world addicted to noise. Become the one who no longer needs validation to breathe. Become the one whose silence carries more authority than other people's shouting. Your silence will make people wonder. Your silence will make people rethink how they treated you. Your silence will make people feel your absence more than they ever valued your presence. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you step into a higher realm of living, a realm where peace is your language, a realm where stillness is your power, a realm where discipline is your shield, a realm where your soul can finally grow without interruption. And America, this is where your transformation begins, not in the noise, not in the arguments, not in the debates, in the silence, the sacred silence that strengthens you, the silence that protects your spirit, the silence that shapes you into someone unstoppable. You are entering a season where your silence will open doors your explanations never could, a season where your quiet confidence will speak for you, a season where your presence alone will change the atmosphere around you. Because the greatest power you will ever hold is the silence that honors your soul. You are not shrinking. You are rising. You are not hiding. You are healing. You are not distant. You are divine. And this silence, this sacred silence, is carrying you into the life you were always meant to live. The moment your life shifts, there is a moment in every person's life, a quiet, almost invisible turning point, when everything begins to change. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It comes softly, like a whisper from deep inside your spirit. And that whisper says, stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. That one decision, that one choice, can shift the entire direction of your life. Let me paint you a picture. A picture many Americans, many people around the world live through every single day. You're at work. You're doing your best. You're carrying burdens no one sees. You're showing up even on days when your heart is tired, your mind is fogged, and your body is begging for rest. You're trying to keep your peace in a place where chaos feels normal. You're trying to be respectful in an environment where disrespect is casual. You're trying to rise quietly in a world where noise gets more attention than character. And yet, every time you try to speak with clarity, someone questions your tone. Every time you set a boundary, someone tries to push past it. Every time you take a step forward, someone demands you prove why you deserve to take it. It wears on you. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And humans, even the strongest ones, eventually get tired of fighting to be understood. Then one day, it happens. Not a breakdown, not an explosion, not a moment of rage, but a moment of stillness, a moment where your soul stands up inside you, a moment when your heart finally realizes, I don't owe anyone my peace just to keep them comfortable. So you do something powerful, something rare, something that only people who have truly suffered, truly grown, and truly awakened ever learn to do. You respond with calm. You breathe. You straighten your shoulders. You let the tension fall off your spirit like dust. And you say only what needs to be said, nothing more. No defending, no explaining, no apologizing for who you are, no shrinking yourself to make others feel taller, just calm, just control, just purpose. And then you walk away, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do. And when you walk away, something almost mystical happens. The air shifts. The room grows quiet. The tone softens. Their eyes follow you, confused, unsettled, even intimidated. Because people don't know how to handle a person who is at peace with themselves. They expect your anger. They expect your fear. They expect you to argue, to beg, to explain, to break. But you didn't break. You didn't bend. You didn't let their confusion become your burden. You chose silence, the most powerful language a strong soul can speak. Suddenly, they can't argue with you because you're not arguing back. They can't manipulate you because you're not seeking their approval. They can't control you because your spirit is no longer available for control. And in that moment, at that quiet, sacred, unshakable moment, you become untouchable. Not loud, not aggressive, not defensive, just untouchable. The kind of untouchable that comes from knowing who you are. The kind that comes from choosing inner peace over outer chaos. The kind that comes from realizing your worth no longer depends on who sees it. That is the moment your life shifts. Because once you taste the strength of choosing your peace, once you feel the calm of walking away without anger, you never go back to fighting battles that drain your soul. You never go back to arguing with people unwilling to hear you. You never go back to explaining yourself to those who only want to twist your words. You understand something deeper now. The people who truly value you don't need explanations. The people who truly love you don't need convincing. And the people meant for your journey won't question your path every time you take a step forward. There's a reason your heart feels lighter when you stop trying to please everyone. There's a reason your mind feels clearer when you stop defending your worth. There's a reason your spirit grows stronger when you choose silence over conflict. It's because you are finally honoring yourself, your peace, your growth, your dignity, your divine strength. And the moment you honor yourself truly, unapologetically, wholeheartedly, the world around you begins to rearrange itself. People notice. They respect you more. Even those who once pushed against you begin to step back. Not because you changed them, but because you changed yourself. You rose above. You chose calm when they expected chaos. You chose wisdom when they expected weakness. You chose silence when they expected surrender. And that choice, that quiet, powerful choice, is the moment everything in your life begins to fall into place. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you become stronger. Stronger in spirit, stronger in focus, stronger in peace. And when a soul becomes that strong, there is nothing left in this world that can shake it. This is the moment your life shifts. Hold on to it. Protect it. Let it guide you into the kind of life where your peace speaks louder than your words, and your silence becomes the proof of your power. What happens when you stand in your truth? There comes a moment in your journey when you stop running, stop explaining, stop begging people to see you, stop trying to convince the world that your heart is pure. And in that stillness, in that quiet, in that sacred pause, something supernatural begins to happen inside you. A shift, a lifting, a rising of the soul. Because standing in your truth is not just confidence, it is spiritual alignment. It is God whispering, now you finally understand who you are. And once you understand who you are, You can never go back to who you were. Watch what happens. Your mind sharpens. Suddenly, the thoughts that once confused you no longer matter. The battles that drained you lose their power. The voices that once made you question yourself fall silent. Your confidence stabilizes, not in arrogance, not in pride, but in a quiet, unshakable knowing that your worth was never up for negotiation. Your presence becomes stronger. You don't walk into rooms hoping to be accepted, yet you walk in already whole, already enough, already rooted in purpose. Your spirit becomes taller. You stand in a way you never stood before. You breathe in a way you never breathed before. You carry yourself with a grace that only comes from surviving storms that were designed to break you. And while all this is happening inside you, God begins to elevate you, silently. No announcement, no warning, no spotlight, just quiet, divine movement. Doors you once knocked on open, paths that seemed blocked, clear. People who dismissed you start to notice you. Not because you forced your way in, but because God made room for you. You start to see the truth. Some people were meant to ignore you, so you could learn not to depend on validation. Some people were meant to challenge you, so you could learn the strength of your own voice. Some people were meant to doubt you, so you could learn to trust only God and yourself. And the people who tried to hold you back, who whispered against you, who questioned your intentions, who mocked your silence. Watch closely. They begin to fall away. They disappear from your path like dust blown by the wind, not because you punished them, but because God removed them. Because elevation has a cost. Because destiny has requirements. Because purpose demands a purified environment. You cannot take everyone where you're going. As you stand in your truth, as you embrace who you truly are, as you stop explaining yourself, something powerful begins to form around you. Divine gravity, a pull, a force, a spiritual magnet that brings everything meant for you closer, without a single chase from your side. See, discipline creates gravity. When you discipline your emotions, peace finds you. When you discipline your mind, clarity surrounds you. When you discipline your heart, love flows to you. When you discipline your boundaries, respect arrives without you having to demand it. Suddenly, you're not chasing friendships. You're not chasing attention. You're not chasing opportunities. You're not chasing love. You're not even chasing your dreams. Everything meant for you starts chasing you. And the things not meant for you start falling away. This is what happens when you stand in your truth. You stop over-talking, because your voice no longer seeks permission. You stop oversharing, because your story is sacred now. You stop over-apologizing, because your existence is not a mistake. You stop over-explaining, because those who truly understand you don't need explanations, and those who don't want to understand will twist your truth no matter how beautifully you speak it. So you walk differently now, more aware, more intentional, more guided by a wisdom you didn't have before. You walk in truth, your truth, the truth God planted in your spirit before you ever took your first breath. You walk in purpose, not rushed, not pressured, just aligned, fully, deeply, unapologetically aligned. You walk in silence, a silence that speaks louder than any speech, a silence that commands respect, a silence that makes people feel your presence before you even speak. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is strength. Silence is maturity. Silence is spiritual authority. And when your silence becomes intentional, your life becomes alignment. Your soul becomes disciplined. Your choices become refined. Your path becomes clearer. Your destiny becomes unstoppable. Because nothing is stronger than a person who knows who they are. Nothing is more powerful than a person who no longer bows to fear. Nothing is more dangerous than a person who has mastered their spirit. This is what happens when you stand in your truth. You attract things you once prayed for. You walk through doors you once feared touching. You receive blessings you felt unworthy of. You become the version of yourself your younger self always hoped you would become. And God smiles, because he sees his child finally walking in identity, finally stepping into calling, finally realizing that the truth inside them was never small, never weak, never unworthy, never invisible. It was sacred. And when you honor your truth, the world has no choice but to honor you. This is the shift. This is the awakening. This is the transformation. You are becoming unstoppable, not because the world changed, but because you finally did. Remember this. There are moments in life when the soul finally speaks louder than your fears, moments when the truth inside you refuses to stay silent, moments when you realize that every explanation you ever gave was a chain, and every silent step forward is freedom. This is one of those moments. Take a breath, slowly, fully. Let it settle in your chest, because you're not just listening to words right now. You're listening to a message your spirit has been waiting for years. Your explanations were chains, heavy, invisible, exhausting chains. Chains built from, "I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I hope you understand. I didn't want any trouble. I just wanted peace." Chains you forged out of love, out of fear, out of wanting to be accepted, out of wanting to be understood, out of wanting everyone to see your heart. And yet, those chains kept you small, kept you quiet, kept you bound to people who took your softness for weakness, your patience for passivity, your silence for surrender. But hear me with your heart, not your ears. You were never weak. You were never small. You were never invisible. You were never the one who needed to change. It was the world that needed to adjust to the weight of your purpose. And now it finally will. Because your silence is no longer fear. Your silence is power. Your silence is clarity. Your silence is spiritual discipline. Your silence is the announcement of a new version of you. A version that doesn't defend every step. A version that doesn't justify every dream. A version that doesn't explain every boundary. A version that no longer bows to the pressure of being understood. Listen, when you choose yourself, the world finally sees who you truly are. The world sees your strength. The world sees your heart. The world sees your depth. The world sees your calling. The world sees that you were made for more than approval. You were made for impact. Walk in that truth. Don't rush. Don't fear. Don't hesitate. Just walk with your head lifted, your spirit steady, your heart glowing with the fire God placed in you before you were even born. Live in that truth. Make decisions that honor your soul. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Take steps that align with your destiny. Speak only when needed. Move with intention. Show the world that silence can be thunder and restraint can be fire. Let the world adjust to your rise. People will whisper. Let them. People will question. Ignore them. People will doubt. Watch them, because every step you take in truth sends out a vibration, a quiet echo the world cannot ignore. And soon, very soon, they will feel it. They will feel the weight of your transformation. They will feel the shift of your spirit. They will feel the authority of your silence. They will feel the gravity of your discipline. They will feel the presence of the version of you that no longer explains, no longer begs, no longer lowers its voice to be accepted. Because when you stop explaining yourself, everything falls into place. Everything. Your peace, your direction, your confidence, your relationships, your opportunities, your clarity, your destiny. All of it begins to align. All of it begins to flow. all of it begins to make sense in ways your pain never could. Hear this. Say nothing. You don't need to respond to every attack. You don't need to justify every decision. You don't need to reopen every wound just to prove why you healed. You don't need to break open your heart for people who came with closed hands. Silence is your new language. Peace is your new power. Purpose is your new posture. Move with purpose. Move like someone whose path is guided. Move like someone who knows they are chosen. Move like someone no longer affected by noise, no longer shaken by opinions, no longer wounded by misunderstanding. Move like someone who finally sees the truth. You were never meant to be explained. You were meant to be experienced. And let your life be the loudest thing about you. Not your words, not your arguments, not your explanations. Your life, your glow, your discipline, your elevation, your silence, your transformation. Let them watch you rise without announcement. Let them feel your growth without explanation. Let them witness your strength without needing to hear your story. Because your life is becoming the echo of every prayer you whispered in private, the echo of every tear you cried in silence, the echo of every lesson you learned the hard way, the echo of every boundary you built with trembling hands, the echo of every moment you chose truth over approval. This is your moment to rise, to breathe, to become, to stand, to step into the version of you that no longer explains itself. And once you enter this version, you never go back.